She's Australia's #1 drag superstar, and if there was such a thing as a quintuple threat, Courtney Act would be it. She can sing, dance, act, host and contour like no one else. The sometimes blonde, sometimes brunette beauty is back down under with a few new projects up her sleeve.
Announcing her new podcast, Brenda, Call Me. Courtney joins longtime friend and wig extraordinaire Vanity to chat about everything and anything that's got them fired up. And gee, they can get fired up, can't they? It was also announced yesterday that Courtney will be co-hosting this year's Mardi Gras broadcast. And for the first time in the parade's history, the annual celebration will be taken off the streets and into the grounds of the iconic Sydney Cricket Ground. Courtney Act, great to see you.
Good morning. It's lovely to be here.
Hello, look at you like a ray of sunshine.
Oh, thank you.
A ray of turquoise sunshine.
Even after all of those naked men, I feel like a gifted amateur compared to them.
Kylie did also call them rays of sunshine, so
okay.
she's handing that stuff out today.
All right.
You usually split your time between LA and London, and here, given what else is going on in the world, you must kind of be happy to be home because you're coming from those other hotspots, right?
I'm always happy when I come home to Australia, but this year was obviously exceptional. I've been trapped in my flat in London, just sort of sitting. It gets dark at 3 p.m. and you can't leave the house unless you're going for a quick jog around the park in the snow. So to get back to Australia is just beautiful. Australia is always a wonderful country, but to have the freedom of movement, we've done such a good job here managing COVID.
Yeah, 20 years as Courtney Act. That's a milestone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever think 20 years ago that this is where you'd be at now?
No, you know what? 20 years ago, I cut up a wig because it was my only wig and I couldn't afford to buy a new one. And I was like, listen, if you want to be taken seriously as an entertainer in this industry, you're going to have to stop this drag because it's shameful and it's embarrassing. And I cut up the wig in my bathroom one night and obviously I managed to get the coins to buy a new one and I'm glad that I did.
Yeah, what a moment.
Yeah,
huh?
It's amazing to see how the world has changed and now I'm, you know, a drag performer on television all around the world. It's just 20 years. I've watched it change in front of my eyes.
Yeah, right. Well, you've been part of that change.
Yeah.
You've been part of that change. We dug into the archive and we found a clip that we thought you'd like. Have a look.
Uh-oh. Oh, I remember this one.
What, talk us through it. What's
Okay, so Trevor, Ashley, Virginia Gay and I were promoting our show Gentlemen Prefer Blokes, but unfortunately right before the season opened I had a gig at Gay Ski Week in Whistler in Canada, and as you can probably imagine what happened, I fell over, I broke my tibia and my fibula and had to do the whole show in a motorised wheelchair. Now the part that you don't see here is that I lived just across the park, and rather than trying to get a handicap, what am I trying to say? Taxi.
Yeah.
I just drove myself here and I drove up the Pitt Street Mall, popped into Macca's, got a bacon egg McMuffin, popped into Terry White, got a pair of lashes. And
Like this?
Like this, in the chair, in full gala. And they were very small lashes, as you can, well, maybe you're not so proficient in the size of eyelashes, Larry, but they're a wispy. And Virginia Gay actually filled in the show as my celebrity guest nurse to the stars.
Lovely.
And the show was a hit. It was a sellout, so much so that Adelaide Cabaret Festival booked the show, but they wanted me to still be in a wheelchair even though I was now able-bodied.
It does add a sense of the ridiculous.
It does.
Doesn't it?
It does.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Hey, tell us about this podcast.
Yes.
Brenda, Call Me.
Brenda, Call Me.
Who's Brenda?
Brenda, okay, well, so Vanity is my best friend. We've been friends for 20 years, and most of that time we've lived on opposite sides of the world. And we never know what time of day it is or whether the other person's awake, and so we would just text each other, Brenda, call me. And I just learnt out on the first episode of the podcast why we're called Brenda and where it comes from. So you'll have to tune in to find out.
I love
but
it.
it's just we just call each other Brenda. And so it's a friendship podcast of 20 years of friendship, sort of exploring the world.
Good stuff. Hey, Mardi Gras, congratulations on that. It's a great gig for you. You're going to look a little different this year. You're going to be back co-hosting the broadcast. What's going to make it different to any other time?
Well, obviously, normally we're rammed into Oxford Street and Flinders Street. Hundreds of thousands of people gather. But this year, because of COVID, and not quite sure where the world was going to be come Mardi Gras time, it's in the SCG, and the tickets have all been sold. There's, I don't know how many, 63,000 people. So still a decent crowd.
Yeah.
All in the SCG, and the parade, the parade will be going around the ring, and pardon the pun, and sorry, Magic Mike, there's a lot of that. And it's just going to be a wonderful night. Joel Creasy, Nerelda Jacobs, myself and Zoe Coombs-Marr will be hosting. It's always a magical night, and I think it's probably one of the most inclusive and diverse nights, not just within the queer community, but you get to see, you know, the First Nations floats, you get to see the 78ers, who are the people who on the very first sort of Mardi Gras were locked and jailed because they were queer, and now 40-something years later, you know, we're being broadcast on telly and celebrated all around the world.
It started out as a protest in '78.
Yeah.
Now a celebration. Where do you see it? Where's it landed now?
You know what? It's a celebration, but there is still protest, and I think sometimes we forget that. Like, I'm like, well, everything's pretty good for me, but I think it's important to look around our country. You know, the rights of Indigenous people, queer Indigenous people. There's such a intersection there. We've obviously heard, you know, some sports people homophobically comment on that in the past, and it's important to think about people who aren't ourselves, and also people in the 70 countries around the world where it's still criminal just to love somebody of the same sex.
A lot of important messaging on that night, and for always. Thank you, mate. Lovely to see you, Courtney.
Thank you.